Hello, hello, my intelligence rebels. I'm actually with the one, the great, the awesome Jeff Walker. Hello, Jeff. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Olivier.
Jeff, so I'm very happy to have you today because I mean, you have been my mentor for like more than 10 years because I joined your mastermind for the first year. And I think right now it's the 11th year, maybe.
Yeah,
So
we're coming up on the end of the 11th year now.
My God, so it's like it's been a long time, and I've used your method, the product launch formula, a lot, and it's like responsible for a big part of my success online. So today I'm very happy because we will talk about this because you just launched actually a book called Launch. I don't have a physical version, but I have it here on my Kindle, and it's actually an expanded update of the book you launched maybe in 2014, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
So we're here to talk about this. So first of all, what is a launch?
Wow. So a launch is based, like in our world, it's how we release products or services. It's how and continue to release them. And so the way we do it in my world, I've developed this process. I actually just had my 25th anniversary of when I started my first online business. And I've been developing this process from the beginning. And it's what we do is we release a lot of great free content before the launch of the product to get people excited about the product before they even know something's coming. So it's all about building value, and doing it in a way, in a structured way that naturally leads into the sale. So, a lot of people are starting online businesses or growing their online businesses, and they might have physical products. Most of my clients have digital products of some sort. They might be an online course, a membership site. It could be a mastermind, a coaching program. And with so many people starting them, a lot of us aren't natural salespeople. This is the way that you can have a very, very effective sales process and come out with massive momentum right from the start without being some amazing salesperson.
So would you say it's kind of similar to what Apple is doing when it's launching like an iPhone, or what Hollywood is doing when they are launching big blockbusters?
Absolutely. It's a great analogy. If you look at Hollywood, it used to be there'd be like one trailer released before a movie. Now there's multiple trailers that build excitement for it. Right before the movie comes out, all of a sudden the actors are on all the podcasts, they're on all the YouTube channels, they're on all the TV shows. That's to get people stoked and excited before the launch. Apple's the same thing. Right now, we're in the fall, which is full-on Apple season. They just had their event where they released their iPhones, and I think their Apple Watches, and they updated the iPads, and they've got another event coming up to release that where they're going to release their new MacBooks. And so what happens? There's all these rumors ahead of time. Well, those rumors are not an accident. Those rumors are, at least some of them, are seeded by Apple. And then there's even rumors about when the event is going to be. Like, I want to get a new MacBook right now. And there's articles being written about when the next announcement is going to be. Is it going to be October 12th? Is it going to be October 19th? Is it going to be November 4th? And then they'll have the event itself, but you still can't get the product at that point. It's basically a way to build anticipation and turn your marketing into an event. And so it's very, very effective for Apple. It's very effective for Hollywood. It's very effective. You know who does it really well is the gaming industry. They do it really, really well. This is how to take that power of the launch and bring it to our kind of businesses, people that don't have huge budgets, but we can still turn our marketing into an event and get people excited before something's even for sale.
Yeah, because I mean, maybe like hearing Apple or Hollywood can scare people because they're like, okay, but I'm a small business. I cannot use the same method. But your methodology is actually a way to use these for small businesses. So it's very accessible People don't need like a big budget and a big means of production. They can use just what they have right now and the internet. Would you say it's like the most powerful method to sell online products?
I would say, I think it is. I might be the carpenter who only has a hammer, so everything looks like a nail. But right now, if you look, there's a couple ways to sell stuff. One of them right now that's really hot, they call challenges. Challenges are basically, they're a launch that follows this formula, and it's called a challenge. Webinars are very, very, very effective. And I think there's sort of two models. There's the launches and there's webinars, but really these days the line's blurred, and we use webinars within our launches. And webinars, if they're doing it right, are using the elements that we use in our launch. So I would say if it's not, I think it's the most effective there is, period. I also think people are doing really well with webinars. So I don't ever want to be the person that says it's the be all and end all. But the reality is my clients, my students have done over $1 billion in launches in every market you can imagine around the world.
In so many industries, yeah.
It's just ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, you've been part of this community now for over a decade, and you've seen the people and you've met them from everywhere in the world that you can imagine, in all kinds of different languages, in every niche, just crazy niches.
Yeah, like I don't know, teaching salsa online. Yes, you can do it. Teaching golf online, we had a Catholic priest at some point in the group too, who wanted to sell tapes of preaches basically from a priest. I mean, it's crazy. And it's very interesting you mentioned webinars too, because if I will guess, I have the numbers so I could check, but I will say maybe 70-80% of my income comes from launches, and most of the rest is from webinars. So I mean, I think it's the most powerful method to sell online for sure, but webinars are great too. And just so it's maybe a bit like for people who don't know these, before, like historically, the launches were pre-recorded videos. And when you say it's a bit more blurry today, it's because more and more launches are made live, which is like webinars. So yeah, the line between a normal launch and webinars is not the same as before. We could say like a modern launch is made of webinars actually. But yeah. Right. I always use webinars during my launches, and it's great, but yeah.
Yeah. And even webinars, what is a webinar these days? Is like someone teaching on Zoom and then making an offer. Is that a webinar? Or is a webinar someone showing slides? I mean, a lot of it's blurred. And frankly, we've seen such innovation. I mean, this market, it's just been nonstop innovation since I've been involved with it 25 years ago. And since I've been teaching how to do launches, it's been over 15 years, but especially since the start of COVID, just everything has just evolved and evolved and evolved in a radical way since then.
Yes. And I know in the English speaking industry, so many people use launches, but sometimes you stumble upon, businesses that are doing well without it in the French speaking industry too. Let's say someone is using already all the tools available except this one. Do you think he will be able to make more sales with launches, even if he use everything else that is available?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the interesting thing, so a lot of people coming into my world are starting out from scratch. They don't have a product, they don't have a list, they're just starting from scratch, and they're having success. It's a lot more work for me to try to get them, and a lot more work for them to just get that initial piece going. Because if you're starting a business, there's a lot of work to be done, and you really need to do a launch, I think, to build that first product and to get that list going. But if it's someone who already has a business and you have an online business and you started to build a following, started to build an email list, hopefully you've got some type of an audience, And especially if you have a product or an offer, something you're selling, then hitting in a launch is just an absolute no-brainer. I mean, it is just absolute no-brainer. It's going to be one of the biggest when you do your launch. And there's some work. Now, there is work involved in doing this, but when you do your launch, it's probably going to be one of the very best weeks you've ever had in your business.
I like to say that it's not uncommon, it's not a guarantee, but it's not uncommon to do the equivalent of 1 year of sales in 1 week. Obviously, it's 1 week because the sales are open for 1 week, but there is a lot of work before, right? So it's not completely, but still. And a lot of people will say, come on, what is this scam? You cannot make 1 year of sale in 1 week. But when you really follow the formula and you have a product that really interests your audience, that's something that is doable, that is achievable. Yep. There is no guarantee. It's not going to be easy, but it's totally doable. And I mean, the first public launch I did, I made the equivalent of like 100,000 euros of sales in 1 week. And I had a list of maybe 2,000 or 3,000 people at the time, so it was crazy, you know? And it was like half of what my regular IT company was making in a year. And I mean, I was completely blown away, you know. But I mean, for people who don't know this, it can seem like completely crazy. So it's just to show that it's possible. There is no guarantee that it is going to work for you like this, but at least you're going to make some sales if the offer is aligned with what your audience wants. So for someone with okay, he has a product, he has a small audience, and he doesn't know anything about launches. What would be like the first step to do something?
Well, so they have an audience and they have a product as well.
Yes.
Okay, but they don't know anything about a launch. So the first thing you do, so really, it's very much a formula. And we've developed this formula. I say we, meaning me and all of my students that I've worked with, and they help me learn, they help me get better. But so we've developed this formula over these years. And typically you'll have 3 pieces of content. And historically, back when I started, we didn't have video, we didn't have audio, we didn't have live broadcasts, we didn't have anything. It was email was the thing we had. So it was done via email, and then audio.
Because when you invented it, it was before YouTube, before Facebook. It was another different internet back then.
It was before Google. I mean, it was like, it was a different world back then. But as these new tools come out, we just use all the tools that are available. And so now most launches are done via video, or as you mentioned, now a lot of them are done via live broadcast. And both are effective. And they some people are more comfortable with video, some are more comfortable with lives. Frankly, email launches still work. But for most people, it's easier to speak your message literally to a camera than it is to write it. A lot of people struggle with writing. And what you'll do is you'll create 3 pieces of pre-launch content, and they follow a formula. The first one is typically what we call the opportunity. It's about sharing whatever we're selling. If you've got a product, and this hypothetical person has a product, that product has some opportunity to make people's lives better. It either takes away pain or it delivers more pleasure. And so there's an opportunity for someone's life to get better, for them to quit smoking, for them to develop a meditation practice, for them to have a better golf swing, for them to meet the love of their lives. Whatever it is, there's an opportunity to make their lives better. And that first piece of pre-launch content is about that. And so this is typically be either a video or a live broadcast, and you're sharing that opportunity for someone's life to get better, for them to lose weight, for them to become a better photographer, whatever it is. The second one is more about what we call the transformation. This is how it's actually going to transform. If the first one is this conceptual idea that there's this opportunity to have your life better. The second one is really about what their life will look like when they have that transformation. Often in the second piece of pre-launch content, we'll offer some trick or some hack or some technique. We'll do some teaching that can get people a quick result. So they haven't even spent any money, but you're trying to get them that result. So like when I do my launch for my high-end coaching program, in my second video, I'm talking about the 3 different types of launches, and I'm helping my viewer actually identify which of those 3 types of launches they're going to use first. So that's the second piece of content. The third one is what we call ownership. And this is where we try to have them take ownership of that future change in their life. And also start thinking about taking ownership of your product. And you're not trying to hide that there's a product that's coming. You're just teaching and you're delivering real value throughout here. Then in the fourth piece, it leads into what we call the open cart period. So everything before that was this pre-launch period. Once you get into the open cart is where you actually, nothing's for sale in pre-launch. You're just delivering value. Once you get into open cart is where you actually open the shopping cart. That's where that term comes from. And you start taking orders. This is your actual launch. So your fourth piece of PLC, pre-launch content, is actually once you, it actually is the open cart period. It's the beginning of the open cart. And that now you're starting to get the messages about enrollment. And it's about enrollment in your product, but it's also about enrollment in themselves. So if someone has decided that they're interested in quitting smoking, or they're interested in having a meditation practice, it goes from, here's your opportunity. This is what your life will look like if you are successful in quitting smoking. But it's not just your life, but your children's lives, or your friends' lives, or your grandchildren's lives, and how their lives will be impacted when you're healthier, when you're not smoking, or when you have this meditation practice, or whatever it is you're doing. Once you get to that open cart, it's like, okay, I've shown you how you can do this. I've shown you how I've worked with other people. Now I want you to step up and enroll in yourself, and enroll in your future, and enroll in my product. And so really if someone's just starting out, it's basically putting together those pieces of the launch that will lead people into the actual open cart.
Yeah, and that's a great summary. And you said a lot value, and really I think it's one of the key takeaways and people can take from this, a launch. Even if someone doesn't buy your product, he will be super happy to have followed your launch, because he will have learned something useful and he can actually apply in his life. And hopefully he will also see results just from the free content you shared. And it's really a key point. And another takeaway, and I hope you understood, is you need to make the launch of your product an event. You want people to be excited about it. You want people to talk about it in advance. You want to make it something big, not just hey, by the way, I just released a product. You can buy it. Click here, which is the worst way to do it, right?
Right.
And so we talk a lot about online products. Is this formula also working for physical products and services?
It does. It does work for physical products. It's like I said, most of my people are probably 80% of them are doing digital, but it works for physical products. John Gallagher, he's in our mastermind, and he's done physical products over the years. I have in the book, did you read Amy Small is selling yarn? It's absolutely amazing story. She sells yarn, custom hand spun yarn, or not custom, but hand spun yarn, beautiful yarn, not your average yarn. And Olivier, I don't know if you know much about knitting and crochet or yarn, but people are very, very passionate about knitting. And it's actually a very big market. So Amy has had this business for a long time. And she used to she'd get this yarn made. She would design it. It would get made in India. It would get shipped to her. She would ship it out to yarn stores. That's typically how the yarn world works, is there's stores where they sell yarn. But she had no contact with her end customer at all. and she was just dealing with the yarn stores, which was sort of like a middleman. And she basically learned about the formula, came into my world, and she started doing launches direct to her customers. And she would do what she would actually sell knit alongs. So she would sell the yarn, but she would also sell the pattern to knit a sweater. And then she would have these knit alongs, which was basically a coaching. So it was a combination of selling this physical product, yarn, shipping out the yarn to people, but also having a digital piece, which was the pattern, and also have a training piece, which is the actual experience of going through the knit along with all these other people. She's only been in my world for a couple of years. She used to sell the yarn at wholesale and barely make any money whatsoever, work really, really hard, was completely beholden to whether these yarn stores would buy her yarn and carry her yarn, and whether the yarn stores would be able to communicate with her, the end user, of how to use this custom yarn, which is different from regular yarn. Amy, her last launch, she did $100,000 in sales.
Wow. In
the first hour.
That's crazy.
In the first hour. So the launch went on to do, I forget the exact number, but I think it was around $400,000. And she has, in just a very short time, has built this business to be $1 million business with way higher margins than she had before selling direct to stores. Her story is actually in the book. It's chapter, I'm not sure what it is. It's, I should know this before I come on here. It's probably like chapter 12 or something in there. Absolutely amazing, amazing story.
And yeah, so that's a great proof that you can use it for physical products. Obviously, digital products are easier because the margin is higher. It's easier to scale, but it's great to know that you can use the formula for different things. You know, regularly we can hear people saying, hey, email marketing is dead. And sometimes we also hear people saying, launches are dead too. So, I mean, you have been doing that for 20 years. Apparently, it's still doing very well. How do you answer these people, you know?
There might be a day where email is dead, but, you know, the only people saying email is dead are the people that don't have email lists. It's like, that's who, you know, the people that saying email are dead are, they probably have some product to sell you about social media.
Usually it's the case, actually. Yes.
Exactly. So literally, so social's great, but there, and I cover social. That's one of the big things, a whole chapter in a book on using social media in your launches, because it's so big and it's so important. But at the end of the day, you don't own your social media profiles. You don't own your social media followings. Social media platforms come and go. So they go out of business regularly. Even prominent ones go. Even like Google, you know, like Google Plus. At one point, Google said the bonuses for every employee in the entire company are going to be dependent on the success of Google Plus. Did you know that, Olivier?
I didn't know that.
They said, we're going to make this work. We need to build a social platform, and they put a ton of money into it. I spent a bunch of time on Google Plus building out like my profile and stuff. Well, it no longer exists. They completely shut it down.
Yeah.
And, you know, so regularly they go out of business. Is Facebook going to go out of business anytime soon? Probably not. But they also will lose favor. Like if you're going after,
and they do already. Yeah.
If you're going after a younger demographic, Facebook is, it's just not a thing for the kids. And so they come and go, but also they change the rules regularly. And so if you spend all your time and money and energy building your social profile at the expense of building an email list, you're playing Russian roulette. You know, you could get shut down at any point. They could shut down your account for all kinds of reasons. You know, YouTube, was threatening me because one of my team members, so I put out a weekly video, which sounds archaic now to only do a video every week, but I also like to have a great lifestyle, and I don't like to share every moment of my life. So I do a weekly, so I do a weekly video. It'd be better if I did a daily one, but I don't want to work that hard. So I do a weekly video. One of my team members found someone violating our copyright and went to report them and accidentally pushed the wrong button and reported our own video. And we got a copyright strike from YouTube.
Really?
Because we reported our own video, and there was only one strike, but if we got 2 more strikes, our account's gone. Or
it's ridiculous.
It's just, and there was no way we could fix
cancel
this.
it. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was just crazy. So it's a silly story, but I know people that have had their YouTube account shut down. I know people have their
Facebook account, of course, ad account.
So you own your email list. You own your email list.
Absolutely.
And leaving that aside, just email is what drives sales. And anyone who has an email list knows when a responsive email list where you've built a relationship with them, that when you hit that send button, it's just like hitting the accelerator. It's just like the gas pedal. It's just like instant, like boom, you take off. And that's not the way for social is. You put out a social post and nothing happens for most people. There are exceptions to the rules, but in general, email will get you way more results. And Olivier, what are you seeing in your business?
No, exactly. I always tell my audience that there are only 2 places on the internet that you already own. It's your email list and your own website, basically. So everything else, you're not on your field. You're not at home. They can kick you out anytime. The rules are changing constantly. The algorithm is changing constantly. So you need to be careful about this. So of course, it doesn't mean you don't want to build the whole ecosystem, but you want to build as a foundation of the ecosystem, the places where you are really the landlord, the owner, and nobody can kick you out, So right. I completely agree with that. So you teach all of these in an online course called the Product Launch Formula, and you have been doing that for like 15 years or something like this. So why write a book? Don't you kind of shoot yourself in the foot by doing that? Because the book is already like a very good teaching of the formula.
Absolutely. So 3 reasons to write the book for me personally. One was legacy. So I invented something. This has literally changed the way marketing is done online. And it didn't do it overnight, but I've been teaching this for a long time, since 2005. And careers have been made from using this formula. It's the way well-known experts and thought leaders and influencers and experts become highly paid experts and influencers and thought leaders. It's literally changed the game of online marketing. And so I figured someone's going to get credit for this at some point, and it might as well be me, since I was the one that actually created it. And so I thought the book would be just a good way to sort of stamp that legacy. So that was one. The other one was altruistic, in that, my coaching program is not inexpensive. And I just know there are some people that either don't have the capability to buy it, they just don't have the money and never will, or just are not willing to step up into that kind of investment. And so I wanted to get this work in as many people's hands as possible, because at the end of the day, I've done very well. I've been in this business been in this game for a long time, done really, really well. And I can basically step away from it right now. So my work now is about making as big an impact, as big a positive impact as possible. And so this just helps me make a bigger impact. And then the third reason is less altruistic, is I know a lot of people will read the book and they'll be like, that's amazing, and I want more. And then they'll come and find me and find my website and end up buying my higher price stuff. And that has absolutely happened since that first edition came out in 2014. what I've noticed is most of the people joining my mastermind and my highest levels of my coaching, I wouldn't say the majority of them came in through the book, but I'd say the book is the biggest lead source of those. So, it's like going to college. College, they're still doing really, really well. I mean, you can think about this like a college book. Colleges, their enrollments are really high and they charge a fortune. Well, you can, for every one of those college courses, you can go buy the book, but people still go and pay tuition and go to college because they want the full experience. They want to go deeper. So that's like when I was writing this book, I'm like, anyone who's writing a business book like this, especially if an online course or coaching after it, you have to make the decision of how much you're going to give away. Are you going to hold stuff back or not? Are you going to just make it a teaser? And for me, what's worked throughout my career, really what the formula is based on, is just giving massive value, knowing that some percentage of the people will want to go deeper. They're going to be willing to pay for mastery. So yeah, those are the three reasons. One, simply legacy. Two, just to help as many people as possible. But three, because I know that it's going to grow my business, and it has.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really like at the core of the formula that to give a lot of value. And why, when in doubt, just give more, and you will always get something back at some point. I really like it. And there is something you don't talk about in the book. And you know me, so you know that I was really influenced by the 4-Hour Workweek book by Tim Ferriss. And I told you already that you're actually more an embodiment, a great example of the 4-Hour Workweek philosophy than probably Tim Ferriss, right? Because I mean, you don't work so much. You're very relaxed. You live in a small town in Colorado. You just came back like today or yesterday from a river trip of 10 days. We were talking about this just before. So I would like to talk about this, even if it's not related completely with the book. But do you know how many hours how many hours you work per week on average?
I don't. Because right before we hit the recording button, we were just talking about this, and I just don't know how to measure it. And I don't tend to want to put too much time into measuring it, because it is a very good question. It's like, what is work? And like you gave the example, if you're reading a business book, but you're sitting on the beach, just completely chill, then that's not work for you. And so it's a different answer for everyone. But one of the things I try to do is not have anything on my calendar. And if you look at my calendar, this conversation we're having right now is the only thing on my calendar for today.
Wow.
I've got 0 things on my calendar for tomorrow. I'm doing, because this book has just come out, I'm doing some more interviews, but often in a given week, I won't have more than 1 or 2 things. A busy week would be 3 or 4 things, meaning either meetings or anything scheduled, because I like to have, I do like to have a lot of unscheduled time where I can that just gives me space to be creative. I'm fortunate that I've been in business for a long time. I've done very, very well. I'm not that hungry to make more money. Money doesn't drive me. Impact does. But I'm only willing to make that impact on my terms. And I know that if I push myself, if I work too hard, I'll end up, it is not conducive to me making more impact. I'm also blessed to have a very, very strong team, an amazing team that takes care of so many things for me. It hasn't always been that way, but that's the way it is right now. And it's an incredible blessing. But one question I always ask is, to what end? Why are we doing this? And Olivier, I've known you for a long time, and I think you're an incredible embodiment of the 4-Hour Workweek, more than anyone I know. And it is, and I see, I don't know if you use those words to what end, but I see you consistently showing up asking that type of thing. Like, why are we bothering to do this? Like, just because everyone does this thing, why are we bothering? And so, I mean, you know, this is a fun conversation talking to you. I enjoy this. I only want to do things these days that I enjoy. That's where I've gotten to my business, and growth for growth's sake is not what I'm after. You know, here in America, like, you know, when I was a kid, 20 ounce at the soda at McDonald's was the large. Right now, that same one, when that came out, it was like mind blowing. I can't believe there's a drink that's this large. Now, when you order the small, that's the size you get, and the large is like this big. And it's like, you know, more is not always better. In fact, more is usually not better. Better is better, and that's I want to live a better life. Continually, where I continually get better, where I continue to get sharper, where I continually have more quality in my life. But I'm not going to work just for growth's sake.
Yeah, we share a lot of things on these, you know. I told you just before we started the interview that I decided to do a 10x in 5 years. And it's a way for me to challenge myself and bring my business to a new level, to have more impact too. But I mean, I could have chosen something else, you know. It's not like I'm in love with making more money. I make already more money than I can spend anyway. So we are completely in tune with this. And also, I hate to have things on my calendar too. But I heard you're making meetings. Do you do like I try to avoid doing meetings with my team. Of course, sometimes I need to do that. Yeah. Do you feel the same way, or do you have like a weekly meeting?
I don't have a weekly meeting. I do have an amazing COO who runs the team, and she has a lot of meetings. You know, Kristen.
Okay.
Usually each week, or once or twice a week, I'll find time to connect with Kristen. We'll have a phone conversation. It's not a standing meeting. I'm very, very careful of any type of standing meetings, because I think like any meeting that's scheduled will often outlive its usefulness, and people will just not stop to think,
absolutely,
like, should we keep on having this meeting?
And sometimes you have people in the meetings and they were invited by mistake, actually. And they are just losing time, and so it's waste of time for them and for the people in the meeting. So
so we tend to have like yesterday I was on a team meeting. I think I don't even know how often the team meetings are, like the whole team meetings, because we've grown up a big team. Olivier, I don't even know if you know this, but we're up to 40 people on our team.
Oh, that's great.
And so
it's start to be like a big company, yeah.
It is. It's crazy. It's just crazy. So
and you don't have any office. You're like me, right? Everyone works from home, right?
Correct.
So that's also something we have in common.
Yeah, and it's always been that way. But like, so there's, I'll show up for the meetings, and then my role in that meeting is about setting the vision. So, but with 40 people to have an all team meeting, we're not having that very often, because there's not very many things we need everyone on the meeting for. So that really, yesterday we had a meeting, and it was just all about setting the vision for where we're going, what's coming up in the next 3 months, the next year. But in general, I don't have any regular meetings.
And in the last meeting in June, I mean, it was a virtual meeting for most of us, you challenged us for something very interesting. You said, hey, what would it take for you to take 3 months off, or 1 month off from your business? Is your business ready for that, so that you're not even available for a phone call with your team? That's a great challenge for us. And for me, it gave me like the project of doing 1 month completely off this year. I mean, in the next 12 months, so before mid next year, Do you go often completely off the grid like this? Because I know,
I
like
am.
for the last 10 days, you were completely off, right?
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
you were out
Yep.
of the network. Yeah.
Yeah. So so that was our mastermind meeting you're talking about. So I just want people to be clear. So in our mastermind, we did that. Really, it's a thought exercise. And of course, Olivier, you're the kind of person that you're like, I'm going to take that thought exercise and I'm going to make it real. So I love that. But just, yeah, this idea of, taking a sabbatical. And there's a lot of things that brings up. First of all, like systems and redundancy, and but also just like internal to us as humans. It's like, okay, is my identity so tied up in my business that I can't step away? But to get to your question, I am a big fan of getting offline. So like when I was offline last week, I was in the wilderness. There's no cell connection. There's no internet connection. There's no connection, period. The only way you could get a message to the outside world was to travel, 80 miles down the river and then get in your car and drive for 30 minutes and then you get a cell signal. It was just out in the wilderness. And I've done that. I do that, I think I've done in the last year at least 3 times.
Wow.
At least 3 times I've been in the wilderness completely offline. And I know it's a great, it's a luxury and a privilege to be able to do that. But where I live, I live where I live in Colorado, out in the mountains of Colorado, to give me that opportunity. Last October, I did a river trip floating on a raft through Grand Canyon. I was offline completely for 21 days. On that trip, we did have a satellite phone that we could use in case we had like a medical or emergency. But, we didn't use it because it was just for emergencies. So it was completely disconnected for 21 days. There's just no way, pure wilderness. And I think, again, it's a luxury and a privilege to be able to do that, but it's good for me. It's good for my brain. It's good for my emotions. It's good for my soul, and I love it. I highly recommend. Any one of us can go offline. We've all got airplane mode on our phone, and I use it regularly.
The same for our brain. Yeah,
that's what wilderness is for me. It's airplane mode for my brain. That's a good one.
I love it. I love the analogy. And that's also what I love about the product launch formula, because it's so powerful that it gives you some flexibility with your life. You can be very ambitious and use the formula to like skyrocket the growth of your business. Eric Rocha is a licensing PLF for Brazil, and he's like he really wants to grow, and he has been working a lot. And you can see that he has the same business as you basically, but for Brazil, and he has a completely different philosophy. And the product launch formula, when you use it well, gives you this flexibility to choose your own life. And I think it's such like a privilege, like you said. It's a luxury, and it's awesome, just awesome. So thank you, Jeff, for sharing all of these with us. So for people who want to learn the product launch formula, you have the book Launch that is available on Amazon or any good bookstore. I know the first version was translated in French and a bunch of the different languages. I saw it in Portuguese in Portugal once, which is awesome. So hopefully this second version will also be translated soon for people who don't speak
I'm sure
English.
Our publisher's working on it, and the publishing industry takes a little bit of time to get it going. So it'll be a while till they hit print throughout, in all the different languages, but I'm sure it will be.
But in the meantime, just read the first edition in French if you don't speak English well enough, and it will be worth it. So thank you, Jeff. Thank you, my intelligent travelers. So we'll put the link of Jeff's book, English and French version, just below. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.